So good morning, everyone. Let's make a start to our first of our monthly online sessions together. So we'll start by taking a comfortable seated position, closing the eyes. And over the next few exhalations, allow yourself to feel that each time the out-breath happens, a little bit more of you comes back to center, comes back into the shape, the outline of the physical body. So it's not a feeling of rejecting or pushing the world away. An opportunity to let go of any of the responsibilities, tasks that you know you've got to deal with in life. But for these few hours, you can leave them to one side. So that you can bring as much of you as possible, all of you, to the practice, to the focus of the 3 hours together this morning. We chant the mantra Om 3 times together, breathing in. And when you're ready, you can open the eyes and move the body. The Vigyana Bhairava Tantra is a text from Kashmiri Shaivism. Originates approximately, or is thought to originate around 1200 AD. The Vigyana Bhairava Tantra is a series of practices, or fundamentally it's a dialogue between Bhairava and Bhairavi. And Bhairava represents, in this case, Shiva, pure consciousness. Bhairavi is Shakti. On a more practical level, Bhairavi represents us, the individual embodied being, so the spiritual seeker, the practitioner. And Bhairava represents consciousness, Shiva, and it's the dialogue, the interplay between the two, as Bhairava tries to point Bhairavi towards realizing her essential nature, her fundamental nature. So that's the essence of the text. That's what all of the practices contained within it are aimed for. The Vigyana Bhairava Tantra is this dialogue between Bhairava and Bhairavi. And he explains, Bhairava gives or explains 112 dharanas, which in the context of the Vigyana Bhairava Tantra mean practices. Rather than traditionally, dharana would mean concentration when you're looking at the descriptions given in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. In this context, they mean practices. They're short, pithy practices aimed at allowing us to tap into that more spacious level of our being, which then opens us up to the potential or the possibility of insight. That's actually the title of the text. Vigyana means insight. Bhairava, as we've mentioned before, in this means Shiva, or the fundamental level of being, pure consciousness. Tantra in this context means this series of practices or this text. So it's a series of practices or a text that are designed to open us up to the possibility of insight, Vigyana, into Bhairava, our fundamental nature. So we're going to explore some of those texts today. We're not going to do 112 because we'd be moving pretty quickly. We're going to explore ones that really touch me and that I resonate with. Hopefully some of them will resonate with you as well. There's, as I've said, there's 112 in this. So you've got lots that you can explore and play with outside of these 3 hours as well. This is enough, hopefully, to give you a taste. So being the Vigyana Bhairava Tantra is a series of texts or practices that are very much focused on the concept of the energetic nature of all things, everything that takes form and shape or manifests, you and me, the things you're sitting on, everything you encounter in life as a manifestation of underlying energy. And they're practices that are aimed to allow us to tap into these more fundamental experiences or levels of our being. And it then also focuses very much on the experience of spaciousness, or cultivating the sense of spaciousness, the experience of it. There's great benefits from this on a day-to-day basis. By becoming more spacious, we'd start to take our thoughts, all of the internal activity, maybe less seriously. It's just less busy when that experience of spaciousness arrives. And spaciousness also is that fertile ground whereby which we open up to the possibility of that insight, of Vigyana arising, because that space has been created and something unknown, currently unknown, can flash forth into the known. And that's what insight, Vigyana, means. Now, there's a practice that we're going to use throughout today that's fundamental to the Vigyana Bhairava Tantra, fundamental to the experience of, or getting us in touch with that experience of spaciousness and the experience of these more subtle energetic levels of our being. And that's something called Bhuchari Mudra. That's a hand gesture that we're going to use. Bhuchari Mudra means earth or ground moving gesture. So it's earth shaking. Some of you will have done this before, some of you won't. So I'm going to illustrate this for you. I'm just going to do a fancy bit of camera work and I might have to move back. So Bhuchari Mudra, you're going to do this with one hand. So you're going to have your hand flat and your thumb tucked down, as it were. So if you don't know this, if you do this at the same time, and even if you haven't done it for a while, it's worth doing anyway, just so that you can tune back into it. And then you're going to have another hand flat on top of the other one, but with that top thumb sticking out. Okay, so that's Bhuchari Mudra. Actually, Bhuchari Mudra is when you then put the tip of the thumb on the tip of the nose, and you don't squash your thumb onto your nose, it's just resting lightly. And those two hands are parallel to the floor. So you don't want to be looking down and you don't want to look up. It's level. You're looking across the surface of your hands. If you wish, you can gently raise that furthest finger, that little fingertip at the end, so that your gaze can rest on that furthest fingertip. You can let go of your hands now. And just in case it is something that's new to you, so you're going to have one hand flat like so, the other one on top, and that top thumb sticking out like this. And that's Bhuchari Mudra. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice that a few times together right now. We'll start by going into Bhuchari Mudra. You're going to practice this mudra, keeping your eyes open throughout. Oh, I do apologise, another little bit of a housekeeping. So don't come into the practice, we'll all go in together. If you do have any questions at any time, if you can put them into the chat box, because there's too many of us, I think, for us to talk. So if they go into the chat box on Zoom, James will pick them up and then pass them on to me, and we'll see what we can do today. So we'll practice Bhuchari Mudra together. So bringing your hands into position. I'll make the gesture each time, just in case it is new to some of you. And then when you're ready, you can place the tip of the thumb on the tip of the nose and just raise that furthest fingertip slightly. And hold your gaze on that furthest fingertip. If at any point the eyes get tired, you need to readjust your eyes, you can. But maintain your gaze, your focus on that furthest fingertip. Now, in a few moments, I'm going to ask you to release your hands. And when you do so, try and feel that you can keep your gaze, your focus in that space that's roughly 12 finger widths in front of your body, so that your focus doesn't fall or become defined by any particular object. It's as though you're simply staring or focusing on the space roughly 12 finger widths away from the body. Keeping the eyes open, releasing the hands. So releasing the hands, keeping the gaze in that space, roughly 12 finger widths away from the body. And then we'll do it again. So bringing the hands into position. Hands nice and level, gaze on that furthest, or the focus on that furthest fingertip. In a few moments, we'll release the hands again. And even though it's almost natural, it's built into the process of vision to focus on particular objects. Trying once again as to allow yourself, to allow your focus, your gaze to simply rest in that space, roughly 12 finger widths away from the body. Releasing the hands. And you can allow your vision to refocus. Now, the purpose of practicing the Bhuchari Mudra is to get us into touch with, or to open us up to the experience of something that's labeled the Dwadashanta in the Vigyana Bhairava Tantra. The Dwadashanta means the limit of 12, or the extremity of 12. Dwadasha is 12, anta is limit. And what it's trying to do is using the visual sense, because as human beings, we're very visual. It's probably our strongest sense. And by using vision, we're trying to draw other senses, maybe more subtle senses, into this space, roughly 12 finger widths away from the body. When we're working with Bhuchari Mudra and using vision, it's mainly in front of the body. But the Dwadashanta, and what that name, that label points towards, is roughly 12 finger widths away from the body in all directions, front, back, to the sides, up and down. And the Dwadashanta could easily be, other words to describe this would be something along the lines of the pranamaya kosha, the energy body, the auric field, that field around the body, roughly 12 finger widths away. Now, this isn't something that we need to necessarily try and make happen. we use Bhuchari Mudra as a gateway or as a catalyst to the experience of this. And it can take time. If this is the first time you've ever practiced, worked with these practices, it may be conceptual, it may be an idea to begin with. For other people who've worked with it regularly, it may be a more natural gateway into that experience. And it's an attempt, and I'm always wary of becoming too prescriptive about these things, but it's also good, if you haven't done this before, it's to know why you're doing this. Why are we doing this practice? And it's using that hand gesture, that mudra, to try and open us up to the experience of a more subtle, finer level of our being, as it were. That which is more spacious. What we're going to do in a moment is we're going to start working with some practices where we start to close our eyes. So having worked with Bhuchari Mudra for a period with the eyes open, we're going to then close our eyes and work with the felt sense. So that working with the visual sense, which is so strong in human beings, it's almost like that has so much momentum that it carries other senses with it into the experience, into contact with that described or labeled as the Dwadashanta. Hopefully, well, the best thing to do is practice this, to try it. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with a couple of practices now where we start to use the breath. We work with the notion of the Dwadashanta. We begin with Bhuchari Mudra, and then we start to work with the breath, again, because the breath is so tangible. I'll tell you which numbers of dharanas that we've worked with as we go through, so that you've got a record, but this is all obviously recorded. So the first things to do now is to adjust your body or adjust your position so that you can be comfortable once again. If you're happy as you are, you stay as you are, make any adjustments that you need to. And we'll sit for maybe 10 minutes, maybe a little longer, in our first practice together. There will be times, and that's going to happen from now onwards, we're going to start to merge dharanas. So you've got one dharana may describe a certain type of practice, and then you can move it on into another stage by merging another dharana into this practice. So it basically has the effect of potentially deepening each practice and also allowing us to move through different stages. So the first thing we'll do is bring our hands into Bhuchari Mudra. And when you're ready, bring in the tip of the thumb to the tip of the nose. Keeping the focus, the gaze on that furthest fingertip. In a moment, I'll ask you to release the hands, and this time you will keep the eyes open as you have done previously, feeling as though you can allow the focus to rest in that space 12 finger widths away from the body. Keeping the eyes open, releasing the hands. And we'll come into Bhuchari Mudra once more. So your hands are in position. You're going to lift the hands up, tip of the thumb on the tip of the nose. Gaze, focus on that furthest fingertip. Now in a few moments, as you release the hands, at the same time closing the eyes, and allow yourself the possibility of the experience of the Dwadashanta through the felt sense rather than the visual sense. the experience of, the awareness of this cocoon of energy surrounding the whole of the physical form. At the front of the body, the back of the body, the sides of the body, the top and bottom of the body, releasing the hands if you haven't yet done so. Open to the possibility of experience, being conscious of this field, this cocoon surrounding the whole of the physical form. Now simply allow yourself to become more aware, more conscious of that space from where the breath arises, where the breath comes in from. And at the same time, then being conscious, aware of the space into which the breath goes. If you can, you let go of any notions of what it should or shouldn't be doing. Simply being aware of how you or what you're experiencing in terms of where the breath is arising, from where the breath comes in, and the space into which the breath goes or arrives. Now, as you maintain awareness or remain connected to the movement of breath, allow yourself now to become aware where the breath turns from out to in, and again as the breath turns from in to out. So becoming aware of those moments, those thresholds, where inhalation turns to exhalation, and exhalation turns to inhalation. And then without forcing. The possibility of being aware, experiencing any gaps or spaces between the two stages of breath, where exhalation has ceased and inhalation has yet to begin, and where inhalation ceases and exhalation has yet to begin arising. Without forcing or making anything happen. Simply open to the possibility of spaces, the spaces between the stages of the breath. And as you gently release the awareness of the breath, simply allow yourself to rest in your experience of this very moment. We'll chant the mantra Om once together, breathing in. And when you're ready, in your time, you can open the eyes and begin to move the body.